So my name is Charlene and I work at Thales. So if you're not familiar with Thales or if you're at the Chichester College site, the nearest site to you is in Crawley. We're just literally a couple of miles from Gatwick, based in the Manor Royal estate, so quite near lots of other shops and other businesses. So we're based in Crawley, but we are actually all over the world as well. So we're based in 68 different countries, and across the UK, we've got quite a few sites, about a dozen, but probably sort of seven large sites where we offer different apprenticeships and graduate schemes. And you might think, what is early careers? But that's exactly what that refers to. So whenever companies talk about early careers, they're talking about apprenticeship roles, graduate roles, and sometimes internships. So anything that's basically straight from school, college, or university. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about who Thales are, what we do, because we're one of those companies, until you actually work for us, you don't really know an awful lot about us. I'm going to talk to you about the two different schemes, so apprenticeship roles and graduate schemes, because you might be really trying to decide at the moment which route to go down. And then we'll talk a little bit about the roles that are current at the moment if you're looking to apply for something for next year. So, who are Thales? So, we, as I say, based in 68 different countries. We're predominantly known for being a tech and engineering business. We work in five large sectors. So, we work in defence, doing work for the MOD, the Navy, Army, etc. We do work for aerospace, space, transport, and cybersecurity. And across all those five sectors, we're always looking for new young talent to come into the business. So the types of products that we work on, you won't have always heard of, because, as I say, it's that kind of company that, unless you're working for us or you know the kind of products we make, you don't see our name branded on everything. So we put all of the special security equipment into aeroplanes. So 2 out of 3 aircraft at the moment take off and land all around the world with Thales security equipment inside. We work with 19 of the 20 world's largest banks, and that will be for all of their cyber security. So when you're logging into an app, when you're doing online banking, all that security that's in place there has been put together by our cyber engineers. We work on all of the London Underground. We're in charge of maintaining and, again, putting together some of the security for, I think, about 2/3 of the London Underground lines. We work with companies all around the world. So we have a lot of joint ventures as well. So when it comes to space, we work with a company called Leonardo, and we work on a lot of different space projects. So the most recent one that you will have heard of is the Perseverance Mars rover, and we worked on the laser that went inside of that. So we're involved in lots of different types of projects, but across all of the sectors and all of the projects, we're always looking for, as I say, lots of different types of engineers, technicians, and business people. Before I move on to the next slide, can someone tell me whether they can hear me okay? Because I've just seen a bad network thing pop up on my computer.
I
Can
can hear
someone?
you. Can everyone in class? Can you give us a wave?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I've it's all gone wrong my end. But as long as you can hear me, that's good. So just shout if at any point you can't hear me. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea about what we do as a business and the types of products that we make and who we work with. As I say, we've got lots of different early career pathways. So we do run internships, but these tend to be for students that are already at university. So the two areas that you're probably going to be most interested today in is finding out about our apprenticeship routes and our graduate schemes. So I've just given you a little diagram there. With our apprenticeship schemes, we do lots of different types of apprenticeships, and they're from level 2 right the way up to level 6. So level 2 is the equivalent of GCSEs, and this might be suited for students that have come straight from school and maybe haven't quite got the qualifications that we're looking for. So we start them at level 2. Level 3 is great for students that have come straight from A level or B Tech, or again, might have come from school with fantastic GCSEs. Level 4 is your kind of HND, HNC level qualification. And then level 6 refers to our degree apprenticeships, of which we've got quite a few more now that are at level 6. So we've got lots of different roles across different areas. With our engineering specifically, if that's the area that you're most interested in, these are the types of areas that we have our roles in. So hardware, software, mechanical, electrical, and systems. And then we do have some business and finance roles that come up as well. And it might be that you are doing a BTEC at the moment in engineering, and as much as you're really interested in it, you're not sure whether you want to carry on with it practically. But because you have some knowledge behind you with engineering, it might be that actually a business and finance role in an engineering company might also be really suited to you. So don't feel that if you've studied one thing or another that that has to be the natural pathway that you follow. We look a lot at your transferable skills, your problem solving skills when we're looking at applicants. So it's not just based on the qualifications that you're currently doing at the moment. So with our apprenticeships, as I say, lots of different levels there to look at depending on what qualifications you're currently taking. Um, the minimum for our apprenticeships is 12 months, but generally an apprenticeship program is anything from 2 years to 4 years, depending on the size of the qualification that you're working towards. For instance, if you were doing a level 6 degree apprenticeship, that would be a degree apprenticeship, and you would do that degree qualification over 4 years. So you would be with us in the business 4 days a week, and then it might be that you do one day a week where you study virtually with that university. It might be that you do something called block learning. And for block learning students, it might be that you do 6 weeks, 5 days a week working at Thales, and then you might go away for a week and do a week study, do one module in one hit, and then come back to the business. And then for other students, they will continuously just work virtually. So it depends on the college or the university that they're studying their qualification with as to how that works. But those are the types of questions, if you are seriously thinking about an apprenticeship, that ask those questions now, because we'll know at this stage whether our level 3 software engineering course is going to be a day course, block learning, or virtual, because some people do have a preference as to kind of how they like to learn. So they will be slightly different depending on where you are in the country, the type of engineering or type of business role that you're doing, and the college or learning provider that you're working with. So those are just a few different things to think about. Obviously, I probably shouldn't have to tell you about the benefits of an apprenticeship, but if you haven't really kind of weighed up the two options, they're great in the fact that you avoid debt and you're also having your qualifications fully funded. So, for instance, if you were doing our software degree apprenticeship, that's through Warwick University, we pay all of your tuition fees. We'll pay your expenses when you have to go up there to learn with them, because they do some block study through their program. So, all your expenses are covered, and you'll still be having a full-time salary on top of that. So definitely the financial benefits of an apprenticeship are, puts it in a really good favor for me. Obviously, you can apply your learning as well. So what the learning providers do really well with Thales is to look at what projects you're actually working on, and then trying to adapt as much as they can the work that you'll be doing in the classroom. So it isn't that you're just studying something for the sake of studying it. You're looking at that particular module because it's actually fitting in with the role that you're doing at Thales. So, a few different things to weigh up if you're looking at an apprenticeship. Obviously, a graduate scheme is also a really good option. And if you know that you want to go on to university, you know that you want that kind of experience of studying and that experience of maybe working with real high level professors and doctorates and people with PhDs and things in that particular area, then a graduate scheme could also be a really good option for you. With our graduate schemes, if you're looking at engineering, you do a 4 year engineering program with us. So you'll come in normally on about 28,000 pound a year, and you will work with us for 4 years, increasing your knowledge of engineering. So you'll do a general engineering graduate scheme, and that will take you around different areas of the business. So it might be that you're doing software for the first 6 months. It might be that you then go into a different role and look at systems engineering. And with that program, you'll also rotate. So not only will you rotate around projects and different types of engineering, but you'll also go to different areas of the business. So you might be based in Glasgow for 6 months, then you might move down to London for 6 months. And again, we support you with that moving. So there is an allowance that we give you for relocating. But that program is a real kind of in-depth look at engineering. And by the time you get to the end of the 4 years, you'll have a really good breadth of knowledge across all the different areas of the business. Your salary will have increased over those 4 years, and you'll also be given some postgraduate qualifications to study towards as well. So you kind of come out at the end of that 4 years a lot more knowledgeable and a lot more kind of well served, as an engineer, someone that's kind of got all the tools that they need. Our business and finance graduate schemes are slightly different. They're a 2-year program. Again, there will be rotation around projects and around the business, but it's a 2-year program rather than a 4-year. One thing to mention with the graduate scheme, and you might be already aware of this, but when you go off to university, there are a lot of different engineering programs out there, and that means there's a lot of graduates coming out of university. So, the one thing I would say as a kind of negative, um, would be that we do get an awful lot of applications for our graduate scheme. So last year it was around 5 or 6 thousand for our graduates, which is a huge number across the UK. And I think last year we had 35 graduate roles. So the competition is much higher when you're coming straight out of the back of university. We find that we get less applications for our apprenticeship schemes, so obviously a little bit less competitive. So that is just something to bear in mind. And you do need to be super proactive and be thinking about where you want to go once your degree finishes whilst you're studying. I had worked at a university before I worked at Thales, and I know that a lot of our undergraduate students would leave it right to the last minute to make their applications for jobs, and they'd find that they'd kind of missed the boat. So you do need to be thinking about that the whole while you're studying at university, and maybe looking at things like internships. So that's a little bit about the graduate scheme and the apprenticeship roles. I've given you a few more facts and figures there on the graduate scheme, but I think I've probably already talked about those, which is a good thing. Um, I've already mentioned the salary. I should mention the salary for apprenticeships. So for level 3 apprentices, the apprentices tend to start on around 14 to 15,000. If it's a degree apprenticeship, they'll normally start on about 16, 17,000, and every year that will go up, as you know, the same as it would for any graduate or any other employee at Thales. So you are reviewed every year, and your salary will be taken into consideration each year and go up by anything up to 5%. So that kind of covers what the schemes are, what we offer in different, for different graduate roles and apprenticeship roles. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the types of behaviours now that we look for when we interview for apprentices and when we interview for graduates. So, if you imagine that one of the main things that we're looking for, particularly with our engineers, is the idea that they can problem solve. Okay, it's all around problem solving, it's around logic, it's about being able to come up with solutions, it's about being innovative, creative. But we also do look at some of the leadership behaviors as well. So, things like being able to inspire others, working together, helping each other grow, because all of the projects that we work on at Talis do tend to be projects where you'll work as a group. So we don't really have many people that work on an individual basis. You will be part of a bigger team of engineers, of systems engineers, of technicians, of researchers who will need to come up together, come up with a solution together. So we're always looking at those kind of skills on how you work well with others, how much of a team player are you, can you make things happen, can you problem solve? And the way that we do that is through what's called an assessment centre. So, to kind of give you an idea of the whole time frame of this, applications are open now. You would send in your application. If we feel that you match all the criteria, we would then send you a link for an online aptitude test. Now, this test, it's quite easy. It looks like a little game. You just log on to it and you play the game. So to you, it feels like you're just playing a game. It's quite, fun, easy. But behind that, we're looking at lots of different characteristics. We're looking at how well you can problem solve. We're looking how well you deal with time constraints. And when you're in a timed situation, do you become stressed? Do you make silly mistakes? Are you quite calm? Are you still logical? All of those different kind of attributes and skills that we're looking for, particularly in our engineers. So if you do well in that aptitude test, we'll then invite you to an assessment centre. And those assessment centres happen between February and May. And for the last couple of years, they've been an online assessment centre. And although restrictions have lifted with COVID, I think they will still be online for next summer. So with those assessment centres, you come along for the day, and you'll be with probably about 8 other applicants. We normally interview you guys in a group. And the reason we do that is because we want to see how well you work with others. So, as part of that assessment centre, there are normally 2 tasks and a one-to-one interview. If you're going for a graduate scheme, there'll be an additional interview on top of that. But for now, I'm just going to talk about how we do the apprenticeship assessment centre. So you'll come along, we'll introduce ourselves. There'll be quite a few of us on the call, so different people that work at Thales. You'll then introduce yourselves. We might ask you a few questions about yourself so we can kind of get to know you as a group. And then we'll get you straight into a task. And these tasks are normally 30 to 45 minutes. And it will be a group task. You won't know what the group task is going to be. And we will give you all of the information. And then we'll basically sit in the background and we will watch and observe and listen to how well you do with that task. And we'll want to see how well you work with others. We'll want to see, are you a good communicator? Can you listen to the people in your group? Are you good at solving problems on your own? Have you got the initiative to try something, to come up with ideas? And whilst you're doing that task, we'll be writing lots of notes on you. We'll be making observations about how well you perform with the task, but also how well you perform with each other. And then once that task is over, again, we can't give you any feedback because that's all part of the kind of interview process. But you'll then be given a break. You'll then come back. We'll then do a one-to-one interview with each of you, and that will be where you'll have your more traditional interview questions. So it might be things like, can you tell me the last time you were in a difficult situation where maybe you had to make a change at the last minute or you had to present something to a group? We might ask you about the type of engineering that you're applying for. So, if you're going for something like software, for instance, we might want to know what type of code do you already know how to use? What programming languages are you familiar with? Have you ever designed anything yourself? Is there a particular TED talk that you follow or a particular blog that you look at? So we'll want to know lots about you, not about, just things you do in your spare time, but about the actual engineering or the business role you're applying for, about things that you do in your spare time. And that interview is normally around 45 minutes to an hour. And there's an opportunity for questions at the end of it. And then we'll give you another break and then we'll send you into your last task. And this will be slightly different from the first. So, as an example, a couple of years ago when we were doing this, one task was an escape room and we looked at how well you worked as a group to problem solve. And then the other task was a business task where we asked you to look at acquiring a new business for Thales. And we asked you to look at things like facts and figures about the business, their financial returns, their social media pages, that type of thing. And again, we asked you to kind of work out which company that you would acquire for Thales. So, 2 very different tasks, but all with the same outcome. We're wanting to just see how well you can work together. When you're put on the spot, how well can you perform? What ideas do you come up with? How do you communicate? All of those things. So once that assessment centre's done, you go away, and we aim to come back to you within 2 weeks. With either an offer or a decline. Now, if we make you an offer, we'll look to start you in the September. So works very much like university, like college. So you'd come and start with us in the September. We'd do a full week's induction with you, and then you'd be off into the business. So that's what it looks like as a process. I've given you a bit of an idea of what the kind of different graduate and apprenticeship schemes look like. And before I take any questions, I will just let you know that our applications for next September, so to start next September, opened at the beginning of this week. In Crawley, if that is your kind of local Tallis and you're looking to get into an apprenticeship, at the moment we've currently got a level 4 bid and project management role. So this is a kind of HND, HNC role, and it's a business role. So you'll be looking at actually bidding for business, working with our sales team, working with finance, working with project managers. Then we've got a digital content apprentice, and that is at level 4. And we also have a data apprentice at level 4. So one's for a data analyst, and the other one is for a digital content role. And again, they're both on the Crawley site. And then if it's engineering that you're looking at, then all of our engineering roles for Crawley are degree apprenticeships. And we've got one in hardware engineering, one in software, and one in embedded electronics. So with all of those roles, you may find that we actually have 2 or 3 positions available for each role. So I think at the moment we've got about 22 graduate and apprenticeship roles for Crawley. So there is quite a few opportunities there for you to go to. I'd really encourage you to have a look at the Early Careers webpage, which is listed here on this last slide. And that's where you'll be able to click on to apply, click on to find out more information.